Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Road to 2000 show. I am your host, International Master Tianqi Wang, and today I bring to you a very interesting topic that is not very frequently explored at a level where people aspire to cross 2000, either FIDE or USCF. But from personal experience, I could say that not caring about it when I was around 2000, 1900 has cost me two scholastic trophies. I lost out on the trophy when I was in 9th grade because I lost one of such endgame with the inferior side, and of course my opponent successfully transformed the endgame into a winning pawn endgame. And the second time when I was in 10th grade, I missed out on another chance to get a top 5 or top 10 placing because I lost again, same exact type of endgame, down a pawn. I did not know how to defend. But that being said, now I know, and I would like to impart what I have understood about this type of endgame with you all, the viewers. So firstly, it is important to notice that in such type of bishop endgames, the bishops cannot attack each other. And so this gives rise to a slightly more often presumption that most of such positions end in peaceful handshakes. However, this is far from I would say this is far from me representing the entire iceberg to you. This would be only the tip. What I'm about to show you is that oftentimes this type of positional imbalance, it can lead to a very one-sided victory for somebody because one of the bishops simply cannot defend against the other bishop, so to speak. And before I dive into the games today, I thought it would be appropriate to begin by showing you some examples of obstacle bishop endgames. And so here we are with the first example. Here it is white to play. And as you may have noticed, these pawn and these pawns suggest that it is a typical fortune favors the brave scenario. So if you were to make the most out of this position with white, who would you put all your hopes on to help you reach certain great results? Yes, my friend, Evil Tuner on YouTube. It is actually white to move. It is white to move, and only the black king can get to e2. Let's say, ideally, if we imagine what would be the fastest way for white to immediately force black to give up. What two moves would you play in succession?
If we could play in succession?
Yes.
H7, H8.
Right, H7, H8, right? This is what I was mentioning before, that our H pawn, or rather, our H pawn represents the hope of the entire chess club. It gets to H8, we achieve a certain great victory rivaling Maga from back in the day. However, we must return to reality and notice that black has assigned somebody to watch over H7, and who might that be?
Bishop.
There's a bishop on B1. And our Arabic friend on YouTube has suggested D4. We will get to that part. So, it is true that the bishop on B1 is vigilantly watching over the H7 square. However, what is the issue here? The issue here is that bishops exhibit a mild degree of ADHD, in the sense that you cannot park the bishop on one square and expect it to defend against two pawns running towards their queening squares. So how would we trigger ADHD problems for this bishop on B1? And as YouTube chat has pointed out, we should attempt to make this move work. The point being that if black commits EP on D3, then it blinds the bishop from H7 for one move, and then we immediately play H7, H8, and we win the game. However, and in the other case, if black declines, then we simply play D5. Our bishop is still paying attention to this G pawn, but black's bishop, it is hard to say if it can keep up with both the D pawn and the H pawn running towards the 8th rank. D4 is, of course, very good. The main idea of this position. However, it does not work immediately in this position. I try to understand why, and I think it's because of the fact that black also has counterplay in this position. So you have to snuff out black's. You have to check black's sleeves for that random fifth ace, so to speak. Okay, right. So firstly, what is this hidden resource that helps black turn the table if we play D4 immediately? Very good. D4, actually, as it turns out, black is allowed to copycat us by playing B5. Interesting idea. D5, B4, takes C3. And we get to a inconclusive position where very likely white has lost all opportunities of winning, because the king will not be able to find shelter from the oncoming harassment of black's new queen and the bishop. So now that we know which sleeve this hidden ace is at, we cut it out by playing what?
Bishop to b6.
Bishop b6 is a rather good idea, but black can copycat you again, right? He can play bishop d3, yes? And suddenly we are at an uncomfortable impasse again. But good thinking. We do need to somehow make sure that black's pawn does not reach b5. Bishop b6, we play bishop d3. Very good. If bishop b6, black can copy us, we turn to something that black cannot copy us from, which is, whoops, a6. So, immediately black must assess their options. If black continues to do this, then most likely we just play here, and already black can give up because you have to pick one, right? And if you take, then already white achieved great sabotage, and we do this immediately. G2 is not a threat because after d5 we are perfectly watching over this cross, and again black is in danger of having to give up because of these guys. So anyways, so takes, oh no, not here. So takes, but now what do? Very simple and straightforward way to lead, push h pawn. But black argues that they can copy us, but what can they not copy us on?
Here.
Yes. What does white play here such that black immediately gives up? No, we play queen h5, very good, and we show black their Grammarly similarity percentage. So that is that. Great. And now I feel that we are ready to move on to the next example in this position. So, before we begin, I want to admit that maybe I made a small mistake with this position, that it is possible that the pawn a2 is actually on a3, because it looks very evident that bishop on here took a knight here. Yeah, very probable. So, but I believe it should not drastically change the punchline of this demonstration that I'm showing you here. So black has taken this knight in an attempt to achieve monopoly on which half of the board. And note the keyword half. It does not only refer to the strict kingside, queenside kind of half. It means some other kind of half. Very good. Knights are not known as colorblind pieces, and so actually that knight on c3 was helping white watching over some key squares. So what would be a critical light square that the knight was formerly keeping an eye on?
E4.
E4, very good. And so now we know that is more or less black's agenda. However, white argues the same cliche narrative that they are slightly better because of quantitative advantage involving bishops. This narrative, unfortunately, does not stand so strong here because, firstly, how many pawns are still alive on the board? $14, yeah. So, and 14 pawns are probably too many for bishops to show what they're made of. Yeah. Okay, that's okay. So that is that. However, there's some other concerns that black should address. What is this urgent business that black must address before their eyebrows catch fire?
Bishop attack on the rook.
Okay, so rook on e8 is not 100% safe. Okay. So when you identify such hostile situation, what is the conventional three-letter framework of thinking that we apply to chess? It has some hint. It has something to do with giving first aid to somebody.
CPR.
Yes. Do you know what CPR stands for, my friends?
I'm assuming capture, protect.
Yep.
Or remove.
Remove would go to C, right?
Okay. Yeah. Run.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So let us move down the streamline one letter at a time. Is it possible? Is it within the legal parameters of the game to do C in this position?
No.
No. Okay. So we should cross that out, and let's move on to the next letter. Yeah. So how would we commit protection of the rook here?
Blocking with either the knight or the bishop.
Yes. Those are our most valid options indeed. However, both of these actions would result in dislocations of black's pieces. And what do I mean by that? This knight wants to go here, here. And after these bishops are gone, the knight has a very valuable anchoring square on c4. So that's where this knight wants to go. If you make the knight go there, can it still make its way to c4 under realistic conditions at the afterwards? Most likely not. Bishop d7. Bishop d7 can work. However, the bishop's job is actually to go here, because it is important that the bishop is taking control of long diagonals in the position. Now you could argue that the bishop can go here and here. That's also one possibility in this position, but black's pawn is on b6 and not b7. What does that mean? That means black has lost one source of natural control over the c6 square. And sometimes one of the nightmare scenarios for black in such type of position is that this knight comes to d4, comes to e5 or d4, and then parks itself on c6 and completely cripples black's communication infrastructures, and then black loses the game because their pieces can't work together. And lastly, this just makes not much conceptual sense because the knight was primed to come here, right? So, okay, so all of our P options ended up not looking that appetizing, yes? So we also struck this letter off the list, and we move on to R, yes? Okay, Darth Plague is. I agree. This is a very robust idea, what you are mentioning. However, I would like to hear a concrete move from you. Anyway, so let's back to my studio audience. So we move on to R, yes? So if we commit R, then what are our options? Rook e7, and what else? Okay, before I play anything with white, do any of these moves look like the rook is making black's position great again? No. So unfortunately, CPR is all out. What does that mean? That means that black has to look for some creative ways to throw chaos into the position. And chaos helps black here because what is a natural law of chess that white has not found time to follow? Very good. So, if we are going to use white's king safety as some form of positional leverage, it opens us to a fourth possibility that we can simply do what? Here? A6. And very good. Bishop a6. That is exactly what black's best move in this position is. After bishop a6, white has to be very happy with trying to equalize the game, because after bishop e8, queen e8, for example, I'm honestly not positive how to continue with white, because already we see some issues where black tries to remove this knight, because this knight is pretty much your last line of defense against any breaches along the light squares. Yes. So I would say maybe white can find some chances to simplify. However, I still do not remain that optimistic on white's chances to walk out of this position unscratched, so to speak. All right, so let's move on to our, is it our first game or our third game? Let's move on to our third game. Let's see how, okay, so this would be a, let's move on to the third exhibit because when I was selecting the games, I ended up realizing that I wanted to organize them in order of professional importance. So in this first exhibit, understanding of the activity of opposite color bishops led your host here to take clear first place in a weekend tournament. So the game goes like this: c4, c5, g3, g6. So very standard things. experienced viewers may probably already know which two bishops are going to remain on the board. You are welcome to type in chat what your best guesses are. Well, so far, black has remained true to the objective that they will stop white from playing d4. Because 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2. So, oh, that's not what I did, by the way. Knight c3. So I circumvent and I play something else. Play knight c3 to pass a move and see what black does with their pawns. So d6. So black has more or less told me that on the next move they're going e5 and knight e7. This is a very textbook and professional way of playing positions arising out of c4, c5, because you take away one of white's primary ways of land grabbing in the middle of the board, which was d4. Castles, e5. I play knight e1. The point of knight e1 is that we are going to test black's understanding of when to time this move. Because if black attacks his pawn, then we have to protect it in this fashion, not the other way, because we want to play a3, b4. And so it does not make sense to put the pawn on b3 and then go b4. When you try to play an opening in a very precise way, you often realize that the pacing is literally as intense as a round of, let's say, Valorant. Let's say you don't turn a corner at that exact moment. Maybe the defender is already there and they can already shoot at you. Yes? So that's more or less the same applies in here. I would like to play knight e1, knight c2, knight e3, and park one of the two knights on d5. So let's see, did black play bishop e6 here? They did. I played d3. Wait, actually, did that actually happen? Yes, that did happen. Okay, knight e7. So black has played knight e7. If white just mindlessly continues with their plan, white will allow black to realize a very important move that immediately, let's say, removes all the pressure, implicit pressure in the position. In other words, black will go from having the free online cut into enjoying 68-degree AC in one move. So here, if we give black another move, how can black achieve the change in air conditioning quality as I have just described? Excuse me, what did you say? d5, very good. So black aims to play d5 because this is where we are hedging where all of our pieces are. So unfortunately, this knight is one move short of reaching the appropriate battlefield. So what move do we have to make do with in the meantime to physically stop black from playing d5? Knight d5. Very good, and not e4, because this pawn on e2 could be important to reject a black knight out of d4, or it could stay on e2 and help securing the integrity of the f3 square, which you'll see in the game later. Knight d5, castles, knight c2, f5, rook b1, all standard things. a5, okay, big deal. Oh, actually, no, okay, hold on. Let's see, so Yes. So here, black has tried very hard to prevent me from playing b4, because once b4 happens, black will face severe positional challenges in maintaining b6 and b7 under control. Because once black loses b7, for the most part, the queen side simply collapses for black. However, I have decided that focusing on b4 will simply equate to banging your head against the wall over somebody else's hero story. So, how do we write our own? Our own story where we are the protagonist with all sorts of plot armor. What do we play here? So, firstly, what is one piece in this position that I have not particularly described its purpose of existence for? This bishop, yeah? Okay. So this bishop is rather unclear where it is going, right? So the bishop cannot make any left side movement because we want to play b4, yes? And we want to do it in one move, not two. So we're not going b3. So any left side movement is not possible. What about here? Maybe. What about here? This will get you summoned to the HR room, right? Because you are occupying a square that somebody else has previously reserved, right? So who has previously reserved this square before this bishop? The knight on c2, yeah? Okay, and f4, I see angry mob on e5, probably also not possible. So, by all of these processes of elimination, we determined where is this bishop's reason of existence on c1.
G5.
Bishop g5, very good. Bishop g5 is also very important because it immediately identifies that which of black's pieces we're going to play against in the long term. The queen can maybe play rook b8, queen d7, and it's fine, right? Kind of a spoiler, I guess, but our topic is on opposite color bishops, right? So that means we have to do an asymmetrical. We have to exchange bishops for knights in asymmetrical fashions. So what usually happens? Is that black is often willing to give up this bishop for some aggressive knights posted here, and white is often also willing to give up this bishop for a knight here. So that's why I play bishop g5 here, because my goal is that I will simply take on e7. Now, normally this would not be possible because with the pawn f7, black can play f6. But as we learned, what is the one thing that pawn cannot do but everybody else can do? You cannot press Ctrl Z and make the pawn go back to where it's supposed to be. So here, I think black already faces some slight issues, positional issues, because firstly, we talked about this exchange, and secondly, the bishop on g7 has no valid targets. it is simply staring into a long diagonal of desolate space. H6. So of course, what do we do here? We take, and then if we're fighting against this bishop, it means we need to take monopoly on what color? We should take light squares, right? Because this bishop will never be responsive to anything you do on light squares. Yes. So, who are the pieces that can still intervene on your light square businesses that you must remove from the board? So we should remove this knight firstly, yes? Because when we're playing against the bishop, we need to remove knights. And now, how do we help our piece? How do we catch the last train home and bring the knight where it's supposed to be? 93, very good. Last train home because because otherwise black pre-moves f4. And we have no idea what to do with this knight on c2. 95. Of course, black will not take immediately. Black was close to NM at the time. They understood that this bishop on e6 is not to be commoditized. They play 3, g5. Maybe, well, actually, no. It's possible that a4 is just flat out not possible because I go knight b6 and I fork. So, okay, so I understand. And g4, okay. Black pretends something is happening, but nothing. We just go here. King h8. Actually, now that I look at it, it seems like black was startled by something very superficial in this position. So, quick stop here. If we give white another move in this position, how can white shorten their way to certain victory? Excuse me? Yeah, that's possible. That is one possibility. Actually, okay, maybe this is not actually a good stopping point. So I will just show you that you're right. BC is possible. That's one threat. The other threat is I will just go here, and the queen has no squares. It goes here. You get forked. If you take the bishop, then knight e7. Not simple. King h8. I take. I play rook b6. Very important because when you try to, because at this point black's position has already became very linearized. In other words, all of black's pieces can only move in one predictable direction, right? So what we do is we need to stack heavy pieces in also a linear fashion against very blatant weaknesses in black's position, and it is important that we do not let the queen spearhead it, because then black can just defend whatever weakness with a rook, and then we cannot ask our queen to entry, right? Rook a6. We do not take because the pawn is much more vulnerable on b7. We go here, f3. Again, black pretends something is happening. We just take. So now you see from before I mentioned that the pawn has some defensive value on e2. Rook b1. Takes. Okay, so black is again up to cheap tricks, but we are not concerned because we have reached our desired position, right? We have reached a position where our bishop on d5 is clearly much more breadwinning than the bishop on g7, yes? So, however, black does pose a very valid threat. It turns out that this may not be in our best interest because this is a pretty serious threat we have to answer to. So, unfortunately, we had to surrender this pawn and play queen b7. The point is that now this is not working because the bishop has enough backup to take the f pawn. So black takes here. All understandable. I play bishop e4, queen c4, and now very important, I play this move. What is the idea here? Queen g6, right? Because again, we plot all sorts of light square conspiracies, but the bishop on g7 is unfortunately not responsive to any of them, which is not what black wants. Yeah? So queen f7, h4. And at this point, I believe black is in a little bit of trouble because I already am not getting checkmated. I have king h2, king h3. And also I'm threatening to just take the pawn c5 next. So black tries here, here. So it is equal material, but again, has black's bishop on g7 been of value to in black's best interest? No, it has not been valuable. Also, very importantly, queen e3 is threatening rook b6. And after here, maybe some other concerning issues happen with black's king. So, black goes here, rook b6, rook f6. And here, there was an interesting story that I could have just played check and bishop f3 and I'm still winning, but unfortunately I simplified in a very poor way that allowed black to almost come back in the game. So after queen f6, black suddenly comes very close to getting back in the game with what? Very easy question, by the way. Oh, no. This is a very bad move. Yeah, queen f6 actually, now that I look at it, it just completely undoes all the effort I made so far in winning the game. So, how can black? Yeah, queen f2, right? So, queen f2, which I completely forgot. Unfortunately for my opponent, they did not exhibit such creativity at the time, so they played queen a1 with the same idea. Unfortunately, queen a1 did not help black in the game because white is able to improvise with what move? So I play bishop b1, right? And after king h2, black must play e4 because there is no other way to defend the pawn f3. So now we just slightly reorganize the queen. And now, how do we take away black's last positional leverage against us? Okay, so chat on YouTube asks why I have to give the bishop back because, hold on, I will go back real quick. So if I play king h2, then white goes here, and this is stalemate. So I have to give the bishop back so the pawn on e5 can move. Okay, and what did you say? How?
I thought it was G4.
G4, right idea, but I think this is kind of concerning. So I did something similar. I played king h3. Yeah, because I would like to hop over the fence, and then the black queen cannot pursue me. So queen e1, very simple idea. Black wants to play e3. So I play h5, king h7. So e3, by the way, does not work because now I have h6, which is a very serious threat. King h7, I play queen d7, h6. Check. And now we have gotten to a point where we're finally safe, and black commits one final error because they were low on time. So how can we immediately simplify the game, simplify the position, and win the game? Two moves. Queen d5, very important, because now black has no moves. If black's only move is to play king h8, and then what do you play? Queen h5. And black cannot avoid queen g5 on the next move, and I believe according to conventional mathematics, 2 is more than 0. So, what's that? Let's see, how much time do I have for these? Okay, so that was an exhibition at about 2200 level. You see how that opposite color bishop made the game almost very one-sided because black played without the bishop. So in our next exhibit, we will look at this game by my good friend who is currently teaching select chess in Chase. This game was taken from one of his earliest attempts to make an IM norm. He fought valiantly at the tournament, but unfortunately he had to be happy with a WGM norm because he scored -1 out of his final two white games where he was both in the driving seat.
Is this Julian?
Yes. And yes, that by the way, I strongly encourage my viewers to check out his handsome profile on the Chess Club's private lessons page, if you get the chance. But anyway, so let's get to the main point of this exhibition. No, that's not this one. Okay, it's this one then. Yes, this one. Sorry. So we follow a very normal Catalan game. Queen c2. This is all normal, by the way. This is a very bad move. I did this in a game, and I should have lost immediately. So what is a very hilarious tactic that black has in this position? Bishop b5, yes, very good. And you get pranked. Okay, so let's not do that. We play bishop g5, which is the right thing to do in this position. Bishop d5, queen c2, okay. So, again, we realize that there's a bishop on c1 that we don't necessarily have a good square for, so we put it on g5 and we remove a knight. We remove a knight, and again, we'll see the same idea that we play against this bishop by moving all of our activities on the light to the light squares. So, rook d1, a5, So black realizes the issue that white will play a5 themselves, and then they will be positionally constricted. So knight d2, bishop f3. Okay, so black gets their super solid position. If everything goes right, black really should be able to make a draw. However, as it turns out, white still had one more winning attempt in this position. So I will just go through the moves here. So we need to play on the light squares. So what final piece do we have to remove before we can start the full battle against black's bishop on f8? What piece do we need to remove? Because it controls light squares. Very good. And how do you propose we do that? Knight a2. Very good. Simple. Queen a2. So I think black at this point was not aware that there is such idea, but which I will show you very, very soon. So rook b6. I guess it's written all over the wall that black will just put something on b4 again because the knight is gone. So more space. Rook c5, rook a8. Okay, h5. This, by the way, very important positional move to make. This also gives away white's ultimate conspiracy in this game, which is to play what in the very end. Okay, so you want to prop the bishop and queen in such a way that the queen goes to h7 and you immediately shake hands, right? Yes. So that is the idea. So let's see if our friend Julian was able to realize such vision. Queen f6, so immediately we should back away. Rook d8, b3, okay. Rook h1, e5. Okay, black tries, but I think not particularly successful because the pawn e6, I believe, had actually significant defensive value. We see that the rooks have been simplified, but is the endgame over? Has black found total safety in this position? Not yet, right? Because queen is sometimes also known as checkmate divide by 2, right? By itself. So with the queens on the board, I believe it is not time for anyone to agree to handshaking yet. So black, as you see, black notices the problem, so we get to this position. Normally, black should still be able to hang tight, but let's see what they did wrong. So here, immediately, black goes for some unnecessary complications, I would say. I believe that perhaps with b6, they would have had a better shot. Takes, 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 so white played their only moves. Again, only moves. And here suddenly we see that black has overexerted themselves in removing white's pass pawn on the queen side. That the king side became derelict, and white proceeded to very simply disintegrate black's king side, and now white. And now black had to give up because there was no way to stop this pawn. Okay. Guess in our last exhibit, I will simply show you the position, and you will tell me what the best decision moving forward is. So Again, we're going to continue this same theme as before, but this time the stakes is even higher. We're not just talking about a professional title norm anymore. We are talking about a world champion title in 1999. This following game was played. White was really, so according to Winner's POV book that was written on this match, White was so mentally crushed by this loss that they demanded the head coach that her head coach never leave the playing room ever again for the remainder of the match for mental support. So let's begin. So takes, so some normal Sveshnikov, I guess, is what it's called. So center stuff, takes. Again, you see, so White firstly instigates the fight for light squares by removing a knight. c3, bishop g5, knight c2, castles. So the reason why the bishop goes to g5 is that sometimes you want to take the knight on e3. g3, knight e7, knight b4, bishop e6, bishop g2, a5, takes. And here we get to this position. This will be our last position to examine for our show tonight. And at this point, Black has an opportunity to completely take over the game, which they found back in 1999. What do you think Black played here? Bishop d5, very good. So as it turns out, transitioning to opposite color bishops was Black's best way moving forward because White has no good moves. If you play queen d5, then I take, and well, you have to take this way, right? Because otherwise I take this pawn and I play rook c2, and these pawns are really going to hate you. So in the game, White played the only move that prolongs the game, which was e takes. And now we will see how Black very slowly took home the full point. g6, rook e1, queen a7. Okay, so very slow progressions, just making sure everything's defended. Okay, b3 important because you see that the bishop is on f6, and b2 will be a chronic target. Queen g7, rook b1, rook f8, bishop a5. Just taking your time. The position is linear. White has no way of rewriting the script aside from just knocking over all the pieces like you do in scholastic chess. King h8. And finally, Black is ready to launch the all-out attack against White's king. So they play queen h5, bishop e2, queen h4. And now after e4, Black is out of moves. White is out of moves. Because after f takes, I think there's just rook g3 and you lose. Because the point of e4 was that it stopped bishop f5 from defending h3. So White goes here to try and fight, but unfortunately there's no fight. Just rook g1, and White gives up because after rook g1 here is pretty concerning, I would say, for White. And so this concludes my road to 2000 for tonight. I hope that my example has shown to you the importance of mastering the little details of navigating through opposite color bishop positions, and what are the possible elements of success you can utilize in your own games when such positions arise. Thank you everyone for watching, and please stay tuned for the next show, which is Grandmaster's Choice with Grandmaster Varujan Akobian. And be sure to wish him a happy birthday if you get a chance to. Thank you everyone.